So it looks like we have a nice sized group to have some great dialogue. So as much as, I'm hoping I can share some tidbits with all of you, I'm hoping that this is an opportunity for me to learn too, because learning is a journey and it never stops. So my career has been in learning and development. That's where I got my master's degree. That's where my focus has been. With the caveat of, in the last 4 months, I've taken on an interim role as Vice President of Talent Management. So I still provide oversight to our learning and development side of the house, but now I also oversee what we call talent delivery, or what some call recruiting. So that's a little bit about me. And I've been in the field in and around 20 years, but I started really, really young. So I'm not that old. That's my story and I'm sticking to it. All right, so I have a question for everyone. What did you want to be when you grew up? So that's my first question for the chat. What did you want to be when you grew up? I wanted to be an archaeologist. Oh, yay. Okay, I love these. These are fun careers. So as we go on our career journeys, things evolve. We find different niches, and we have different experiences, and we land, where we land. So the purpose of today is to really talk about how could we be maybe more deliberate about our own growth and development. And I would love to sit here and tell you, yep, 20 years ago, when I started on my journey, I absolutely knew that this is what I wanted to do. When in fact, truth be told, I didn't even know our field was a thing until I got my first job. So we're going to talk about a growth and development plan model. We're going to talk about some pitfalls. We're going to talk about how we explore our paths. How do we define what that path might be? How do we identify where our development opportunities are? What's creating a plan look like? And then I've pulled together some resources. Now I'm counting on all of you to supplement what I've pulled together, because I recognize that I'm talking to learning professionals. And in fact, as I was preparing this, I was like, Jay, do you think they all already know this? And, is this really going to be value added? So, feel free to chime in and give me feedback as I'm going through today's session. That's how we, create a better product. My feelings will not be hurt. So I have another question for you all to kind of help set the stage. What do you want to get out of our time together? What are you hoping to gain from today's session? I'll give you a moment to respond in the chat. Looks like, Jay, we have some folks still coming in.
Yep.
What made you sign up for this session, other than we know that Jay is phenomenal? Okay, new ideas? Thanks, Melissa. Thanks, Anu. So I can see the chat as you guys are putting it in. I'll keep going and reflect back as we're going through. But I want this really to be for you all, because what I told Jay is I wouldn't be where I am today if it wouldn't be for some amazing mentors and people that I worked with to help me on my career journey. All right, so in spirit of full transparency, this is not my model. I lifted the model from this book. It's called the 9 Steps of Creating Your Executable Individual Development Plan. And some of the content that I'll be sharing with you, I've also used with our executive team as part of their development. So it really doesn't matter where you are on your career journey or on your path, there's going to always be opportunities to learn. So when we look at these steps, it really starts with defining your future state, or if any of you are Covey fans, beginning with the end in mind. So what's the path you want to take? Evaluating that path, doing research around what does that path look like? What does that mean? Then really taking that step back to look at what's your current state? Who are you? What are you all about? Where are your strengths? Where do you need to hone? And gathering feedback as you're defining that current state. And then finally, creating a plan. And I guess this should have been a cycle, because I feel like that's what we go through as we're going through our careers. It's a cycle, not necessarily linear. So as we're creating that plan, we're looking at, okay, where are our gaps? Writing that plan out and reevaluating how we're performing to that plan. So it's not much different than when we're doing instructional design, right? Except for this time we're doing it on ourselves. So as we think about going on our career journey, as a leader myself, I've seen some things. I've done some of these things, and or I've seen others kind of step into some pitfalls. So some common things that I see is starting off with linking your career to a specific title or a specific organization. So Jay mentioned early on in my career, I started with Ashley Furniture. It was a phenomenal experience. I worked with amazing people, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to be with Ashley forever. Well, obviously, I'm not with Ashley any longer. I'm with Aspirus. But the idea here is keeping your eyes wide open to opportunities that are out there, or linking your goals to, when I grow up, I want to be X. Well, our field and business and industry are continually changing. So I would challenge you all to think about, what's the work you like to do? The second piece here is thinking that our careers are linear, because they're anything but. Sometimes we have, and I had, when I was moving along in my career, okay, the next step is manager, then the next step is director. Well, there were a lot of experiences that I was provided in between those steps that helped me. Jordan, I'll respond here just in a second. There were a lot of experiences that I had that didn't necessarily result in a title change, but they were definitely experiences. So Jordan, I'll answer your question. What are the things that helped you know it was time to move on to the next org? Well, we're going to talk a little bit about that as I jump in here. So for me, I had worked for Ashley for almost 12 years. And I decided that if I was going to make a move, it was probably time for me to make a move and look at what other industries, because Ashley was technically my first real job out of college. So I decided it was time to move on. I wanted to find an organization where I could stretch some of my skills and still do good work, but do different type of learning and development work. And I knew I wasn't going to get that at Ashley. But for everybody, it's different, right? Sometimes it's culture, sometimes it's your boss, sometimes it's experiences, sometimes it's the people you work with. It's a very personal decision. So I've listed some other pitfalls on here. One of the things that I wish I would have done a better job of when I worked at Ashley is this third from the bottom, abandoning your network. Because truth be told, Jay and I didn't get connected until I was seriously thinking about leaving the organization. And I thought, I kind of need a network. If I want to get out of the organization, I need to start networking with people outside of my organization. That obviously wasn't the only reason, but certainly making sure that you maintain a network. It's an important part of your professional growth and development, whether you're looking to make career moves or you're just learning, you just want to benchmark. The other thing I would say is, especially right now, and especially as I look into the future, we as learning professionals are going to be challenged in ways I don't think we've traditionally been challenged before. We're going to have to rethink our work. We're going to have to rethink the value that we add to the organization. And for many of us, that means stretching and going outside of our comfort zone. Certainly, if you would have asked me 5 years ago if I wanted to be leading talent delivery, I don't know that I would have been raising my hand. Yet here I sit today leading talent delivery and learning and development. So what are some other pitfalls that you all can think of? That you all have seen as learning professionals? Yep. That's a really good one, Katie. And, what I tell folks when I'm coaching them is, even if this opportunity didn't pan out, sometimes we have to take a step back and reflect and look at it as it's not now. The organization say not now. That doesn't mean never. You're never going to have that. So being open and exploring, what can I learn from this? Where were my gaps? Why do they think I'm not ready? Yeah, Chris, that's a great point on job titles and skills. I frequently see that, like, I want to be X. Well, what does X consist of? And are there other ways to gain that experience? These are great. You guys should be doing this session. Although I am with all the smart people. All right. So certainly lots of opportunity. And, Morgan, to your point, pitfalls are just that. They're pitfalls. It doesn't mean that you can't pick yourself back up and move forward. Sometimes we fail, sometimes we stumble. But at least if we fall, we're falling forward. And that's better than not moving forward at all. All right. So let's jump into defining what our future state is. One of the things I really loved about the book I shared with you all is they put it into 3 buckets, and I never really thought about it this way, but it totally makes sense. So as we think about our career paths, where do we want to go, and beginning with that end in mind, there's kind of 3 buckets that we can land in. So we have the subject matter expert bucket. So like you could be a great instructional designer and, you stay in the instructional design space. You could fall into the project manager space. So while you're managing projects, but you're not necessarily managing people. And then finally, moving into that people leader space. And all 3 paths have advantages and can have great career opportunities within them. It's again, really about what fits you, what aligns with your values, and what aligns with your skill sets. And if you don't know what they are, that's okay. I meet lots of people who don't know what they want to be when they grow up. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I can tell you that your network can help you understand your career paths and your different options. So frequently when I'm coaching individual contributors and even leaders, And they come to me and they say, I want to grow my career within the organization, but I'm not sure quite where I should go and what I should do. One of the first things I recommend is they go out and they talk to leaders and they talk to other people within the organization or outside of the organization to really understand what those options are, what's out there, what skills they might need. And then, of course, there's the professional network like Frederickson. So today is a great opportunity to connect with different thinkers, different individuals, and obviously your personal network outside of work can help you identify your path. One of the things that I really, really stress within my team is that a network is a beautiful thing. And you can't underestimate how valuable that network is for both sides, right? To give back and to receive. So when I send leaders out to go have those conversations, I typically prompt them with, here are some things you might want to ask as you're meeting with folks and as you're exploring. I pulled some of these off of Forbes, but if you all do a quick Google search, you can find sample questions. Because remember, this is about exploring paths. So, you're reaching out and asking people where their paths started and, what they did, and digging into what skills they've found to be valuable on their path. Looking at options. This fourth one about taking stretch assignments, I would highly, highly encourage stretch assignments, opportunities to lean in, any place where you can gain experience as well as exposure helps you and the organization. These last two statements are really or questions, I should say, are really for those who are interested in leadership. If leadership is where you want to go and what you want to do when you grow up, well, dig around and ask questions so the experiences, the exposure you need to step into leadership roles. I can tell you that when I thought I wanted to be a leader and I thought I was ready to be a leader, looking back now, not so much. I'm really thankful that my mentor pulled the reins on me a little bit and helped me dip my toes into leadership before he let me go full bore. So I'm going to pause there. Thoughts about engaging network, working, asking questions? Jay had a question. What do you think of trying to find a mentor? Was that for me, Jay, or for the group?
For both, but I was thinking of you because we've never had this conversation.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you that I've been incredibly blessed in my career. So when I worked at Ashley, I worked for the vice president of operations in HR, which is kind of a unique mix. And he was really my first mentor. And truth be told, he scared the fire out of me when I first started. And then the organization partnered me with another mentor because they saw something, and she was phenomenal. She taught me everything I know about process and how to build systems, how to scale, which in our field is incredibly important. So truth be told, I didn't actively seek those two mentors out. I was provided them by the organization. As I've moved to Aspirus now, and then as I've grown my career, I have sought people out for guidance and feedback and growth, because my growth never stops either. So I would encourage folks to do that. One of the great ways to build those relationships is by doing this, because I can tell you my experience has been talking to somebody about this is going to be the best part of their day. This isn't unique. I don't think I'm unique in saying I love I love helping people in this space. And every time I've partnered an executive up, they thoroughly enjoy doing it too. But it's not, I would say, more often than not, it's organic, is what my experience has been. What about the rest of the group? What do you all think? Are we multitasking? All right. So with that, I just went through, defining the career path, 3 different options of SME, project manager, people leader, and thinking about our own plans. So what we're going to do is we're going to pop into some breakouts and just create some space for reflection and discussion. I see that Mark just sent a PDF out with the questions, so you might want to download it. Let's take about 10 minutes or so, 10, 15 minutes. I'll pop in and out of the conversations to see how you all are doing, to just reflect. Questions about what I'm asking you all to do? All right.
All right, we'll go for a quick 10 minutes here, everybody.
Okay, so I got the screen share, but I forgot to unmute myself.
One at
How were your discussions, crew? What insights did you all have? No insights? What do y'all talk about?
I can throw something out there, Rebecca.
Yeah, thanks, Harley.
I just it just seems like a lot of us have similar or shared experiences that you just wouldn't assume others have experienced. I know in my case, I said I kind of fell into learning, and you started nodding your head, and people are just like, they have similar experiences, and more often than not, people are also willing to help you out and assist in any way they can. So.
Yeah, thank you for that. And you're right, I fell into it, and I bet there's a lot of people on this call who fell into learning. Other insights?
Yeah, I was just going to add to that. We talked about in our group how so often it starts with conversations that you're having with people. And that blossoms into you finding out about this new thing that you didn't know existed, or, so it kind of aligns with the falling into new opportunities. And just like the value of that network around you.
For sure. Thanks, Laura. Any other thoughts or insights? All right. So let's talk about defining our current state. Where are we at? And again, I would say that this is a journey. I'm not the same person I was 10 years ago. I'm not the same leader, nor do I think I'll be the same leader or same person 10 years from now in regards to my skills and development. So really taking, again, I like things in buckets. That's kind of how I roll. So as you look at your current state, reflecting on what is fulfilling for you, what fills your bucket, what do you enjoy doing, assessing your skill sets. Again, I know I'm talking to learning and development professionals, so you all have all the goodies in this space. And then finally, actively seeking feedback. When we're looking at our current state, it can be pretty vulnerable, and but it's also an opportunity to go, okay, I'm not good here yet. That doesn't mean you won't be good. I was telling the group I was in the breakout with that I'm not really awesome at human analytics, and that's a space that I want to develop skills in. There have been multiple times now where I've wished, especially in the last few months, that I could manipulate data better than what I can. Who's familiar with the Johari window? Jay, you don't count. Are you all familiar with the Johari window? Is anybody familiar? All right. Y'all are.
There we go. People are afraid to use chat all of a sudden, and then everyone starts putting it in.
Okay. I use this model when I do leader development and executive development, and I really just love the concept of the Johari window. So it really breaks us up into like 4 quadrants. So we have the things that are known to others and known to self. We have the things that are known to others that people observe in us, but we don't recognize about ourselves. And that's really where seeking feedback, engaging a mentor, all of that can help, as well as using some of those assessments. Then we have the unknown to others. So the things we keep hidden about ourselves. And then we have the unknown to others and unknown to self. And I just love this graphic, so I included the link because it just makes the Johari window so fun. So the idea is to open this part up. So where are the unknowns about ourselves, and where can we hone, build, develop? Does that? I'm going to assume yes. Anything you think I'm missing, Jay?
I've always just been fascinated that your Johari window is different with everyone. And so blind spots, for example, are generally bigger with people who you're closer to, because they know things about you and see things in you that you don't necessarily know yourself. And they do that because they've gotten to know you better. And so it changes over time. And the window is not the same with any two people.
Those are good points, Jay. So there's a lot of different ways that we can open our windows as we're assessing our current state. So one of the ways that we can do that, you all are probably familiar with ATD. This is probably the easiest in that you can go out to their professional capability model. So if you're looking at just the field of talent development, you can open your Johari window around your skill sets into, they've done a nice job of breaking them out. Is everybody an ATD member? Or are some of you ATD members? Okay, I'm seeing some yeses, some notes. Okay, well, I've included the link. I tested this on my team. This capability model to go through the quick skills check is free. So you can see kind of where you fall. And it's essentially a gap analysis, right? For those of you who are instructional design, but it's a gap analysis on yourself. So even if you aren't familiar with or you're not members of ATD, I would recommend at least getting their news feeds, because that's our field, that's our industry. They broke them down into, so as I mentioned, they broke them into 3 categories: organizational capability, personal capability, and professional capability. Here's how they've defined them. So I know that this is a lot on a slide. So when you go out there, different categories. And so I think it's helpful to remember that as you're on your journey, and if learning and development or talent development is the field you want to stay in, looking at, okay, where can I get education in this space? Where can I get experiences related to these things? And how can I be exposed to these things? And that shows up in a lot of different ways. I'm going to pause there. Any thoughts about the professional capability model from ATD? Oh, thanks, Mark. Okay. So so I shared with you, okay, this is for our field. Here's how you can assess your current state. Now, here's some resource you can utilize to assess you as a whole. I like these, and these are some that I've used for myself, but there are oodles out there. What I really like about the VIA Institute is that not only does it look at your strengths, but it helps you reflect on the things that you value. So you get this really nice picture of almost a holistic picture of you around your strengths and values. And so as you explore organizations, these are the things that I value. This is what I'm all about. I value giving back to communities. I value helping people. It makes sense that I'd work in healthcare, right? So I would recommend that, and it's free. So then I'd also recommend, if you're interested in taking on leadership type roles, you start looking at leadership type competencies and seeing where you're at in that space. HBR, this link, this is just a quick leadership style assessment. The Clifton Strengths Finder, this has been in the industry for a while. I believe the name of the book is Now Discover Your Strengths. So if you buy the book, then you get free access to the Strengths Finder. So for $20, you get to take a survey and you have a book to boot. Many people use DISC. Some people use Myers-Briggs. We use an assessment at Aspirus called the Caliper Profile. There's oodles out there. So as a group, what are some tools you all have used, some assessments that you all have used to better understand yourself? Insights. Nice. So there's great tools out there. I can tell you, I was writing training on emotional intelligence and I was looking for free emotional intelligence assessments. Nobody should take like 5 emotional intelligence assessments in one day. So as you're opening your Johari window, be thoughtful about what you do to yourself. Well, I was validating whether or not these assessments would work. And I'm sure you all do it too. You use yourself as the guinea pig. And I'm like, oh, I guess I'm not very emotionally intelligent. All right. So I'm going to pop us back in. Oh, well, we could do this as a group discussion. How many folks do we have all in, Mark?
There's about 20 in the session right now, if that's what you're asking.
Let's do this, because sometimes this can be very personal. Let's do small breakouts again, and let's discuss 3 to 5 techniques you could utilize or have utilized to seek feedback or assess where you're at, so you can open your window. So let's do, again, 10 minutes. All right. Mark, I nailed it this time. I unmuted myself. and shared my screen.
2 for 2.
Hot
Good
dog. All right. What conversations did you all have about opening your Johari window? How do you all, or have you all assessed where you're at? What do you all talk about?
Amy, share yours because yours was so unique.
Sure. So I work for the director of education at Lifetime, and she recently got certified as a leadership coach. So she opened it up to all of her direct reports saying, you know, if you want to be coached, obviously it wasn't a forced thing, but I was kind of like one of her first like official clients. And so we've only had one meeting so far, but we're going to have quarterly meetings to, you know, she gives me a lot of ideas on like what I can work for. And it's definitely like a learning experience for both of us to really get to know each other. Since I've been with the company for 8 years and she's been with the company for 1 year. So we can kind of just really get to know each other that way and find our strengths and weaknesses.
Nice. That's a great suggestion and a great way to do that.
Yeah.
Lee in my group, I'm almost positive it was Lee, said he actively sought out feedback, almost like a 360. So I have to give him huge props, because 360s and asking people for feedback like that can be really, really daunting. And, you know, you're pretty vulnerable when you do that. So I thought that was a really, really cool idea. He proactively did it. What about the rest of the crew? Any other ideas? Thoughts? Regular performance reviews are an excellent way to do that, especially if they're well done. One of the podcasts I mentioned in my breakout group that I'm an avid podcast listener. So my team, anybody on my current team will tell you at least once a week they're getting a podcast on something. But I really like listening to the Neuro Leadership Institute's podcast. It's called Your Brain at Work. And it absolutely covers our field as well as the field of OD, change management, so on and so forth. And they talk about the neuroscience behind giving and receiving feedback. So the brain is wired and will fire, my words, not the neuroscience words, the same way when a leader has to give feedback as when you're receiving feedback. So, you know, when the leader says, hey, Jay, do you have a minute? I have some feedback for you. You know, I get anxious, Jay gets anxious. Nobody loves that situation. So one technique that they talk about is asking for the feedback, much like what we did with the 360. So I'm going to share with you a tool that you can use to ask for feedback. I love using this tool. I encourage our leaders to use this tool. I use this frequently as I'm looking for feedback, and it's called a plus delta. So here's how it works. Super simple. You have 2 columns. So on the left-hand side, you ask the question, what should I do more of? So you start off with, I'm really working on XYZ, or I'd like feedback on this project or how I handled this situation. When I'm faced with this again, what should I do more of? And then on the right-hand side, what should I do less of, or what would be even better if? So really, really nice way to get feedback, and it takes the stress out of the conversation, especially if you use it on an ongoing basis. So it's kind of like, you know, a version of Kirkpatrick's evaluations. So you can use it at the end of meetings. You can do it on one-on-ones. You can do it when you're trying on a new skill. So maybe Mark and I are in a meeting together and I say to Mark, okay, I'm really going to practice the skill of question thinking. And I know this meeting is really going to challenge me. So can you actively watch to see how I'm doing trying on this new skill? So it's almost like this little insider, like, can you help me as I practice? So an alternative to doing a plus delta is you can ask, what should I start, stop, continue doing? Same thing, frame it up. What should I start doing, stop doing, continue doing as I'm trying on whatever new skill? So easy, painless, and a fantastic way to open your Johari window, because you can take 1,000,001 assessments, but those assessments are only going to have your perspective and how you view yourself. It's not going to get feedback from others. So you all will have this deck. I typically just do this in a notebook or in my notes. I still old school take notes when I'm in meetings.
Okay.
Questions, thoughts?
I'll just add, and I thought of this actually as you were talking, Rebecca, but also Anu had shared from insights, that sometimes she's a different color when, under deadline and things like that. But from my days as manager, director, and 360 reviews, it's good when you're getting feedback to think about the different groups. So, customer, supervisor, peers, if you have staff, because just like Anu, how you had shared, I'm red when I'm on deadline. I've got to be red right now. I may not be that way all the time. People are going to see you differently based on their relationship to you. So making sure that you get kind of a well-rounded perspective will help really open up that window more.
Yeah. And the other thing is when we're under periods of high stress, like the deadlines, Jay, that you're describing, or whatever, the last 2 years, we tend to go back to our natural tendencies where we're most comfortable. So all of the skills and tools that we've learned when we're stressed, we have to be really, really thoughtful about utilizing them, because otherwise they'll go out the window. All right, so now let's move it. So we've done the reflection, we've done all the assessments, we've talked about our career path, where we think we want to go. Now we need to create a plan. So how are we going to go about doing this? So I'm curious, Mark, are you ready? Do you have my poll rocking and rolling?
Oh yeah, you know it.
To what degree do you all currently use a professional growth and development plan? This is a judgment-free zone. Okay. Okay, so we're a little bit all over the place. Kind of have a mixed bag. Okay. So, okay, I'll be transparent, open, and honest. I do have a growth and development plan. I have an outdated one. I need to brush mine off. All right. Well, today's journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. I'm assuming you all came in to do this for a reason. It looks like we have a mix of, I'm not sure where to start, but I want to begin it, and I've somewhat started one. Well, perfect. We can do that. All right. Oh, look, I can share the results. Can I do that, Mark, or can you?
Oh, we did that.
Oh, look at you. Sweet.
Yeah. We're good.
So Chris asked, curious about your thoughts of not having a development plan. Say if your company is more informal and doesn't require them. It's kind of like, I'd say it's kind of like time management. everybody use techniques and tools that work for them. So if your company doesn't require them, that's cool, but I see it as more a tool for you. And it doesn't have to be as formal as what, I'm sharing with you all today. It could be a simple punch list of, these are the experiences I want, and this is the exposure, and here's where I want to build skills. It could be as simple as that. Does that help, Chris? Good.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. All right. So here's an example plan. This isn't even actually the template that I used for my own, but I kind of liked this. So if you think about, as you were looking and as you were assessing where you're at, you list off your area for development, the date you do it by, and how are you going to do it. So you all are in the field. So 70, 20, 10, you really want the bulk of your development, and the bulk of your development is going to come through experience. So really thinking about, what experiences do I need to have to help me get to X? As well as exposure, because that's part of it. And certainly education goes without saying. What's currently happening? And how are you going to know if you've been successful? What will that look like? And frequently when I'm coaching leaders as they're developing these, I will ask them, how are you going to obtain feedback? How are you going to know if, as you're trying on this new skill, it's working? Because in many cases, the feedback you're going to get is qualitative, not quantitative. And then any other progress or notes you want to make. I think it was Jordan who mentioned reflection. So as he's trying on new skills or having new experiences, reflecting on, what did I learn from that? Did it fill my bucket? Did I enjoy it? So on and so forth. And I would envision that you could do the same with all of this. So I'm going to pause there. What do y'all think about this? Make sense?
Yeah, I was saying it's a quiet group today. I think when we start at 8:30, not enough people have had their coffee, unlike you and me, Rebecca.
Yeah. Well, I don't remember who mentioned it in the chat that they get up early. I'm a 5 o'clock, get up at 5 o'clock. So I've had a little time to ease into my day. I've sent over this template and another template to Jay and Mark so that they can send it out to you. So feel free to use Lyft however you please. I lifted it off the internet. I've sourced it, but use with it as you please, and evolve it. If this doesn't quite work for you, so what? Do something different. It's just about building out some sort of plan. So let's talk about garnering experiences. So here are some suggestions that I've had through my experiences. Now, my experiences are just that, mine. There are a lot of different perspectives out there. But the one thing I would say is say yes and lean in to new projects and new opportunities. That is going to be some of the best ways to get experience as well as exposure. Now, be thoughtful about what you're leaning into and saying yes to, and is it aligning? But say yes. And you're going to hit a point. You're going to hit a point where you're going to be really, really busy. And you got to think about, does this align with my values, and does this align with, where I'm trying to go? Today's session, I said yes, mostly because I heart Jay and I love doing this and it aligns with my values. But it's also a great opportunity to meet some really, really cool people. Identify opportunities that would help your team, your customers, and ask your leader if you can lead an initiative. So during COVID, obviously I work in healthcare, all learning, the way we were doing it, shut down. My entire team shifted their work to totally support COVID. I never thought I'd learned so much about personal protective equipment as I did during COVID. But as things started to slow down and I started to look around as to what the organization was going to need, I identified we really need to do work around well-being and resiliency and emotional support. And so I shifted my entire team to focus their energy there. So the idea is look around, scan your environment. What does the organization need that you can help provide? And bring those ideas forward. It's especially helpful and amazing and awesome if you can tie an ROI to it. Ask your leader, engage your leader to be your partner in helping you find new projects. They may not be able to give it to you like that minute, but now it's in their head that you're looking, that you're interested in, that you want to grow. Seek out opportunities that align with where you want to work and what you want to work on. The cool thing about what we do is we get to meet so many people. And so we get to see so many different parts of the organization. And then volunteer outside to create opportunities to try on new skills. So don't want to try the skill on at work? No problem. Volunteer outside of work. I want to try project management. Event planning is a great way to do that. All right. I just want to quick read through this great chat. Yeah. Thanks, Brianna. Thanks, Amy. Weakness, we use the motto here of fail fast and move forward. If you're going to fail fast and go forward. That's how you learn.
I have to share it. Way back when I taught high school, and there was an old, very old building trades instructor at our vocational center. And he had the best line for learning I ever have seen up in his classroom, because it's so true. And it said, everything is difficult until it's easy.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, leaning in and trying things. I'm going to do a shout out to Lee. I conned Lee. Notice I said conned. I conned Lee into doing a Twin Cities Articulate user group session, and it took a lot of discussion, but he did a nice job, and I think he'd say it was good development.
Yeah, it was great development. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and that's like the perfect segue into gaining exposure, right? In your case, it was outside of your organization, but it's in your field. So, there's a lot of different ways that you can garner exposure. It's really up to you. If you're waiting for your leader to do it, it's not going to happen. So it's really up to you to lean in and engage in, how else can I do that? How else can I approach that? Where else can I showcase my work? Sometimes folks will say, well, I don't want to be self-promoting. Well, it's one thing to be self-promoting. It's another thing to, here's the work that's happening and here's the impact that it's having on the organization. That's a very different story. All right. So some things to remember. Your growth and development plan is going to evolve and change. Your career is going to evolve and change. It's a journey. There's never going to be a good time to sit still and work on your development. And there's never going to be a good time to work on your plan. So it's really up to you on how you want to do this. But I can tell you that the best way to do development is to build it into your daily work. So doing those things like that plus delta, actively trying on new skills, and actively seeking feedback are going to go a long way. So I promised Jordan, he prompted me with a question. So Jordan, I want to make sure that I have this right because I know we're running out of time here. He asked me, what is the difference between being a resource and asking for resources? Did I get that right, Jordan? Well, I'm going to hope I got it right. So as I've grown my career, I started as an individual contributor, like many of you, and I quickly learned, especially in manufacturing, it's about adding value to the organization and showing that you're adding value to the organization, either directly or indirectly. Same applies when you're asking for resources. So is the work and what you're recommending adding value to the organization? Do you have data to support your case? Have you done your due diligence? That's how the shift happens. Is it's all about adding value to the organization, and that shows up in a lot of different ways. And it depends on the organization you work for.
And you got a thumbs up from Jordan, so.
Oh, good. We have like 1 minute. Any other questions? Well, you all have my contact information. You know that I'm a resource. It was great spending time with you all this morning. Mark and Jay will send out the deck and they'll send out the resources, but please don't hesitate to reach out to me. You all have a great Tuesday.
Thank you, Rebecca. Everyone's already giving you thank yous. I don't even have to prompt.
Oh, good.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for spending your day with us. Rebecca, thank you so much.
You are very, very welcome.
Have a great day, everyone. Bye.